Hi everyone, it's Eddie here at Eddie Makes Art, and today I'm going to demonstrate how you can use very inexpensive paints to create some awesome gel prints on the jelly plate. And we're going to be using everything from like these top-notch paints, which are I think I got for 40 cents each, a couple of Apple Barrel, the Hippie Crafter ones, and they're all a little bit different in their own right, but they're going to work really well on the plate. So I'm going to start by creating some backgrounds of mainly solid-ish colors. I'm going to mix up some of the paints to create, more interesting colors, but not like, crazy out of the way. I'm keeping it pretty basic here. So I'm doing a layer here of lemon yellow and titanium white. I do have some metallics there that are of the inexpensive range. You can see some of them over there to the left. And I'll incorporate some of those as well into some of the mixes I do. But this was a fun session. It was quick. The hardest part was lining up all my bottles in the proper color lineup, as you can see there. But it looks really good on the screen. And just so you know, I'm using a 9x12 gel plate. The paper I'm using is 8.5 by 11, the Hammermill color copy paper. And I'm doing the cleanup around the edges with just some Carnival tissue. Sorry, Carnival wet strength tissue. Not just fun tissue, but, got a purpose. So hopefully I'm holding up those paint bottles well enough for you to see the colors. But more the point is using, especially for beginners, it's great to learn with these more basic, inexpensive paints, because you're not feeling guilty about breaking the bank, right? So if you're just starting gel printing, don't go out and buy a bunch of golden paints. They're great, they're wonderful, but don't use those until you feel comfortable using these types of paints, the craft paints, on your gel plate. When I started gel plating, I started with a 5x7 gel plate and some of these craft paints you see there on my desk. And yeah, the first few prints, they were terrible. But with trial and error, I learned how to control the amount of paint I was putting on the plate, because I was a little heavy-handed sometimes. And that's something frustrating too when people are learning how to gel print, is knowing how much paint to put down. And there's no exact answer for that. You just have to basically you guesstimate it, but with experience, enough practice, you'll get to know your different paints and you'll understand more. Okay, this one is, a little stronger and maybe overpowering, or this one's a little looser than that paint, so maybe less of this. And doing these things over and over, that's how you're going to learn how to control the amount of paint that you add to your gel plate. A good thing to also start to notice is how quickly your paints dry. Whether they're drying on the plate, or they're drying more on the paper, or you have some dry spots. And you'll see that in the video. In some of these prints that I pull, there are some like light patches in the middle where the brayer didn't get complete coverage. It's going to happen, but you learn. So I'm just mixing purples here. There's a lavender purple, a darker purple, and then there's a metallic purple. But I think the most important takeaway that I found learning how to gel print is have a good time. It's just paint, it's just paper. Just have a good time. Take your time. Take deep breaths. Think about what you want to do. You're not going to always get exactly what you conceptualize in your mind. You're not going to always get that on the gel plate. I think a lot of the fun of the gel plate is when you pull a print and it's like, wow, mind blown. Did not expect that whatsoever. And then you're going to pull somewhere, you're like, wow, I planned that out. I put a lot of, motorcycles. I put a lot of thought into that and it didn't work. But that's when you take the opportunity to look at those prints and look back on the steps that you took and then maybe modify some of those steps or whatever to, and try it again. That's all you can do is just try it again. And you'll get more confident with time, obviously, as with anything. But I guess my main point is you don't have to break the bank to create beautiful prints on the gel plate. Like I said, started with very, very inexpensive acrylic paints. They were mainly craft paints. And some of those prints were terrible. But once I started learning how they behaved on the plate, I was more cognizant of what to expect. So I wasn't as surprised, and maybe I could adjust things a little more or a little less depending on what the paint was doing. Some of these craft paints are a lot looser than others. So I have to remember, like when you shake the bottle to mix up the paint, mix it well, you can hear if a paint is looser than not. Like a lot of these hippie crafter paints, they're very, very thick, which is fine. But I know that, and so I struggle with the bottle and finally just had to open it and use my palette knife. But I know that, so I expect that. And I'm not surprised. I'm just like, okay, time to get the palette knife and just get it out. Now, here's the bad news of the video. The portion of the video where I use the stencil is half missing, or not missing. Half of it did not get recorded because I got a new phone, or upgraded. I don't know, it was an iPhone 12. I upgraded to a 16. And so I don't know if the settings were off or something was weird, but it just stopped recording halfway through that session. But I think with what I did get, you get the idea of what I'm going for and what I'm doing. And it's very simple, but it creates great prints, which also will give you more confidence to keep playing on the gel plate. And I think that's important, is when you're playing on the gel plate, is to be confident in what you're doing and just relax. Just gotta relax. Take your time and have fun. Experiment with color combos. find a color wheel, take out your color wheel, and check out the color, the schemes, and you go, okay, these are opposite colors. What if I mix these two opposite colors? What am I going to get? Stuff like that. And you play around and swatch them out. You have them for reference later on. This is a great idea. I don't always do that, but I guess my gel prints are my swatches, basically. But you get the idea. I did that a lot when I first started gel printing. I kept a notebook, a diary, and I kept a lot of info in there. But as with anything, the more you do it, that muscle memory kicks in. So I don't need to write down as many things as to remember as I did. But there's all sorts of tips and tricks. I have several videos and tips and tricks that you can watch for gel printing. But the main thing is have a good time. Don't let anything bog you down. And that's a really good paint. That pearl, it's I got it for 40 cents. It was I think it's a Joann's brand, top notch, and but it's a pearlized white. It's really really good. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to mix it up as much as I can, because sometimes with metallic paints, they will not want to mix with your regular acrylic. So you have to give it a little mix. You can do it with your palette knife, or you could do it just with your brayer on the gel plate, and you'll get some cool effects that doing it that way too. Now this was going to be interesting because I'm like, oh, some of this green, it could be too bright, and those are the only greens I have in craft paints. Although I have this other, like this darker green, but it's like it's just I don't like it to use it on the plate. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't work well with others, so I just don't use it. But I mixed these two. Unfortunately, I'm almost out of this emerald color from Hippie Crafter, and it's such a good one. I need to see if I can get another bottle of that. And the other color is also Hippie Crafter, and I believe that's just like is it grass green? Pale green is what it's called. Yeah, there you go. Pale green and emerald green. And this was good because the addition of the emerald toned down that other green, which was a little in your face. Now, mind you, the print is still going to be in your face when I pull it off the plate. But don't forget, we're doing another layer with the stencil in the next part of the video. See, it toned it down so it's not as, in your face green. And I decided to do some of the browns too, because I do have a lot of those. And these from Hippie Crafter, they're actually really good. I used them several times. And the reason for the dots is I filmed this after watching PM Artist Studios live stream where Patricia did a bunch of prints doing the dot technique where, you place dots of paint over the plate like I did here, and you brayer it out and not completely, and you get like really cool. You get a really cool effect to your print. If there are any people out there watching who are new to gel printing, have a question, not sure, frustration, please drop a comment and I'd be more than happy to help you. And if I don't know the answer, I will find the answer for you, because I know it can be very daunting at first. But once you get into it, it's a lot of fun. It's a little addictive, but it's great fun. I like that how that turned out. That shiny metallic color, that was the espresso from it's rich espresso from Deco Art, their Dazzling Metallics collection. Very nice. They also do amethyst, which I used in this video, and the what color is this? This is zinc. That's a really good one too. And they also have one festive green. I didn't pull that out. I should have. Now this raw umber is thick. I'm struggling, but I'm getting it out little by little. This also helps me control how much paint I'm putting on the plate. I mean, the paint is soft. It's not like chunky or anything. It's just very thick. And now that I think about it, I've had my air conditioning on, so I wonder if the air conditioning, the cool air, kind of made them more thick, because I don't know, weather, maybe, possibility. And you see those white areas. That's what I was talking about. Where sometimes with the less expensive paints, you might get something weird like that. It could also be another possibility is sometimes when you use metallics on the plate, they can leave a little residue behind, and you can't really see it, but it affects how some of the paint spreads out on your plate. And if you want to get rid of that, it's really easy. Just you can use a gel plate conditioner, which is basically find yourself a food grade mineral oil or a basic baby oil. You put a few drops on the plate and you use your fingers and you gently rub on the plate, and it gets up any little particles, any invisible paint. And when you start wiping it up with the paper towel, you'll see all the stuff that you didn't see there with your eyes. And then I usually add a few more drops after I've cleaned off the first layer of the baby oil, and then I add a few more dots so that and once I spread that out, I let that dry, and that keeps my plate conditioned. It keeps it sticky to the touch, which is important, and it's just good for the overall health of the plate. Make it last a lot longer. So this was the last one, and if you notice, it's got some of the brown in it that came off from the brayer mixed in with that the steely gray colors, and it looks really good. It warmed it up. And here comes the part of the video that I unfortunately only got part of. But like I said, it's I'm doing the same thing over and over. I think the hardest thing I'm doing is picking out contrasting colors to for the backgrounds I've created. So first thing I do is I lay down a layer of paint onto my plate, not super thick, but don't want to be chintzy with this layer because you're going to want some of that paint to stay behind to pull a print with. And today I'm using my friend Safia Button's stencil dot dash filigree. She's one of the designers over at PM Artist Studio. And at first I put down some tissue because I want to get up that part of the stencil that is exposed, right? Then you want to use your hands and maybe even the baron to get in and lift up the paint through the design. And then I pull the stencil off, lay down another print, and I pull up that ghost print that's left behind, and 2 prints done. And this blue paint, this was, I believe, the phthalo blue, cobalt blue. And this is a really good combo. I love that. It's a nice, like, summer, hanging out at the country club dock kind of blue, the yacht club or whatever. You can tell I've never been to either. And don't be afraid to pick up your print slowly. And if you've missed a couple of spots, lay it back down, give it a good rub, and you can get most of that up. And if you don't freak out. It'll add a cool element to your next print. So this is the end of the video. And I apologize again, my camera did not film the last half, but you got to see this really cool orange one I did. You will see here all of the prints together. And I did a sort of dark and gray mix, like a blackish mix for the red one. And then with browns, I added that to the green. And I added the blue to the orange. And then I did white on one of the brown prints. And then the ghost print I put over the purple. And then I did the ghost print from the orange onto the darker brown print. And there was even some left over of one of the other brown paints that I put onto the last print, which was the silvery one. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Have a great one. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and leave me a comment. Thanks. Bye.